I'll comment on that also, because this is something near and dear to my heart. We have kind of funded the initial startup of NIEM, and with DHS's help, it's grown beyond, frankly, our wildest dreams of when we initially set out in terms of how popular it is. We are looking for additional help within the federal government. We're looking at some of the people who really find value in NIEM, like like in different parts of DHS, different parts of DOD, and in the health community, to actually step up and to be full partners with us on NIEM. And the benefits are tremendous, because then they get to help drive where NIEM is going, which is an exciting ride and something that would be beneficial for the whole federal government. So we are definitely looking for additional partners in order to help NIEM become all that it can be. NIEM is not just something for the law enforcement community anymore, not just something for first responders and DHS. It is very much something that needs to be for all of federal government and all of state and local government. In fact, state and local government has actually taken a more global view of NIEM than has the federal government, and it is more broad-based and widespread across state and local in terms of its use in different communities than in the federal government. So we're trying to do the outreach, to reach out to additional funding partners who can be full members of the NIEM team and to help drive where we go.
Things that I saw about the Department of Justice approach to NIEM was it spread the funding across the entire justice community and public safety community, and they sort of got away from this program level funding approach, which DHS and HHS kind of still do an awful lot of that. HHS program level funding for the infrastructure investment and replacement investment. And I guess right now one of the concerns that I've got is, as we sort of raise the level of the dialogue, NIEM is going to allow us to exchange the data, but if we don't figure out a better way to do the enterprise architecture at the state and local level to support the infrastructure investment for information exchange layers across that entire area, we're just going to create bigger silos that are going to be harder for the next generation to break down. So I guess my thought is, question is, where are we looking at the sort of the enterprise infrastructure investment so that we don't create these new round of super silos for health and education and justice.
So I think we want to be sensitive, and the root cause or the question around why do you have these super silos, or why do we even have silos, is because one, sometimes it's around just turf, but I think that's too simple an explanation. I think majority of the time it's because the community in those disciplines believes that this standard or that standard does not address some of the business needs, whether it's a healthcare community or the economic development community, and that their space is so special that we haven't really engaged them appropriately. But back to your question around the enterprise architecture, whether that's at the state level, local level, or even at the federal level, the challenge is that unless you have a problem that needs to be solved and investments need to be brought to address that problem, you don't have a very high statistical likelihood of success. One of the reasons NIEM was successful in its initial days was because there was a very specific problem that it was targeted to. The challenge with architecture a lot of times is that it's become so abstract that it turns into an academic exercise, and the business leaders who want to make investments to solve some of those business problems can't see the value. And I think that's the challenge for the architectural community, is to figure out how do you, as you're rolling out segments, show and demonstrate enough value as you're architecting towards a central core or central platform. And I think NIEM has demonstrated success as far as we're looking at DHS and as we're looking at what's going on with justice. But when we look at health, there are small examples when you look at New York City, but you don't have the same level of value generation yet. And that's why I said we need to move now from a model of thinking about it and talking about is NIEM good or not, to shifting our thinking about how do we execute across the board. How do we figure out the ability to execute across specific domains, whether that has to do with defense, whether that has to do with education, whether that has to do with healthcare.
This is Richard Spires, and I'm the brand new CIO at Department of Homeland Security. Not too long ago, I was at the Internal Revenue Service and actually served as their CIO, so I have worked at this level in the federal government before. I'd like to make a couple of comments. First, I wholeheartedly endorse the concept of not only a federal enterprise architecture, but then driving it to the department level and into the state and local level and working collectively and together on that. We had great success in harmonizing at the Internal Revenue Service many of our systems through our enterprise architecture. And it's my commitment here as the new CIO at DHS to work with our team, both at and within my office and all the components to do the same thing within DHS. Our governance structure already mandates through an enterprise architecture board, of which Donna is a member, so that any major program coming through needs to go through that board, and the use of NIEM is really now mandated for all programs within DHS. That being said, that's just, if you will, the lowest common denominator in my view. One of the things that I see we need to do a better job of in DHS is the segment architecture work, starting with the mission need and looking across not only the components within DHS, but really what is, if it's law enforcement, how does DHS fit within that greater law enforcement community from a business architecture perspective, right? And then driving that to the systems that we're either running, operating today, or building to support that, and ultimately to the data and the standards, of course, NIEM. So I'm going to be very much supporting the drive to enhancing, because in my view they're not as mature as they need to be yet within DHS, those segment architectures, starting with the business process and driving it down. And of course, to the gentleman who raised the point, when it comes to things like law enforcement, us working very closely with the state and local community and driving that segment architecture, I think is going to be key. NIEM's a great start, but now we need to start building on NIEM in order to have the kind of success that we're talking about.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, if we think about it, take this analogy to the physical world. One of the things that fundamentally changed global commerce was actually standardizing on the size of a container when it came to shipping. What that allowed was a uniform way of moving goods and supplies across the world. It fundamentally changed global commerce. But the way it was also led was because it generated value for trading partners. They could actually see value in one standard being able to trade with countries all over the world. In the same way, I think what we need to be able to do is lead with value in terms of demonstrating the value that NIEM brings to the table, rather than just leading with, here's a standard you must follow.
There's one idea that we've talked about at the conference a lot, and is familiar to you all in the community, which is identifying high-value exchanges, business-oriented mission information exchanges, and building reference IEPDs, reference information exchange package descriptions. That's been a key with the law enforcement example, with the National Suspicious Activity Reporting Initiative that Bart talked about yesterday. So that's a challenge that, I think as a community we need to embrace, is lifting up a little bit and looking at national level priority exchanges, reference exchanges that we all anchor on. I've heard several folks, talk about this idea here that as a community maybe we're ready and there's a critical mass to lift up and sponsor those sort of activities. That'll drive tremendous value.
Hi, I'm Alan Blair. I was wondering, in the sense of demonstrating value, whether there was any work being done in pushing down the metrics of performance reference models into lower levels of the organization, and then perhaps using the chart of accounts like SFIS to actually track the metrics, and so the architects and designers could see the metrics, could get periodic information on them, on their current state, and then use them to design their systems.
So the question is, how are we doing on performance architecture and performance metrics? One of the exciting things that Vivek has done and that we've done in the in the new administration is the IT dashboard. So, and the reason I want to come back to the IT dashboard is because a lot of times what happens with architecture or project management or performance metrics is indirect. It's not directly linked to the actual activity. With the IT dashboard, we're looking at IT projects, cost, schedule, performance, more frequent information, information tied to the real activity that's occurring, getting a more accurate, timely view of what's going on. I think this sort of focus is the key to making performance architecture real and making it work.
So I want to thank you for all of your questions, and I think we will close for a short break and thank Mr. Vivek Kundra. Mr. Hitch, Mr. Spires, and Schmender will stick around for additional questions after the break, so please come back. I think we'd like to get started, so if everyone could join the ballroom.
Okay. Well, we're winding down, but this is the town hall. Now, we actually already started our town hall process when Vivek was here, which was really good, and I'm glad he was able to join us for that. We do have a few new members that I want to introduce. I think you've heard quite a bit this week from Donna Roy, and I would just like to add my personal thanks to Donna. She's just been a ball of energy and a really visionary leader for NIEM. And I think you've also heard quite a bit from Shemendra Paul. So I'm not going to reintroduce them, but I would like to introduce you to two of our other panel members, and you already heard a little bit from Richard. But Richard Spires is the Chief Information Officer of the Department of Homeland Security. He has extensive experience in senior level operations and information technology issues, working in both the private and the public sector. Richard oversaw IT responsibilities for the Internal Revenue Service as the Deputy Commissioner for Operations Support, Chief Information Officer, and Associate Chief Information Officer for Business Systems Modernization, respectively. Before joining the IRS, Richard served as the President, Chief Operating Officer, and Director of Mantis Incorporated, a software product vendor. He also spent more than 16 years at SRA International, a systems integration company specializing in distributed information systems, working his way up from systems and software engineer to senior vice president of SRA's commercial sector. And we're very privileged to have Richard here today. He will act as the co-chair of the executive steering committee of NIEM jointly with me and kind of the overall governance of NIEM. So I welcome him to that role also. Our other panel member is Bob Boehmer, and Bob is somebody that I've worked with quite extensively over the past several years in his role on Global. But Bob actually is employed by, he is the director of the Institute for Public Safety Partnerships at the University of Illinois at Chicago. The Institute provides training, technical assistance to enhance the capacities of communities, police, and other agencies to work together to build safer and healthier communities. Prior to coming to the Institute, Bob was General Counsel and Secretary for the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority.